It is International Day of the Girl, a day to promote girls' empowerment and fulfillment of their human rights. Every day, millions of girls around the world face challenges from education to economic growth and development, but those challenges are now compounded by the COVID-19 pandemic.
And joining us now to discuss how to make their futures brighter is Lina Abirafeh, the executive director of the Arab Institute for Women at Lebanese American University. Lina, thank you for being with us. And I know you've been working and fighting for women's rights for decades now, 3 decades, if I'm correct. What does this day mean for you?
Well, thank you so much for having me. First of all, I think International Day of the Girl is every day. Girls' leadership, rights, education, choice, freedom, mobility. We should be fighting for those things every single day, because the reality is all around the world, they don't have those things. We can't take those fundamental freedoms for granted absolutely anywhere.
Can you tell us as well, we've been talking throughout this pandemic about it being a she session and how women have been disproportionately impacted, but also around the world right now, you have over 100 million girls not in school. You might have millions that might never get a chance to or won't be going back after the pandemic, and you call this a gendered pandemic. Can you expound on that a little bit?
What that means is that all of the impacts we've seen are detrimentally affecting women and girls. Women and girls are already more vulnerable even before the pandemic. I mean, the reality is not a single country in the world has achieved equality, not one. So when we add the COVID pandemic to that, all of those vulnerabilities, those inequalities, the imbalance that we have in education and access to the economy, healthcare, leadership, decision-making, politics, all of those things are compounded, they're amplified, so they're made much worse. So for instance, something like child marriage that happens all the time, unfortunately. Girls are forcibly married to the rate of 40,000 a day. 40,000 girls a day. So you can imagine, add the COVID pandemic onto that, add all those insecurities, and we are going to have millions more girls that are forced into marriage before they are ready, before they want to. The same for something like female genital mutilation that happens. Millions of girls, I think it's 4 million a year, are subjected to that. And millions more will have to experience that type of violence because of the pandemic, because of the way the pandemic is manifesting, impacting lives and families and livelihoods. And girls will bear the brunt of that. They'll be taken out of school. They will be forced to work at home, like I said, married off early before they are ready. So the impact of that is going to be felt for an entire generation.
Lina, can I ask, you said not a single country on the planet has achieved gender equality. Who has gotten close? Who is doing well? And where does the U.S. rank in there, in your opinion?
Well, first of all, the reality is that not one single country has equality, and we are globally 100 years away from equality. So if we continue at this present pace, it's going to take 100 more years for us to achieve it. In terms of the countries that are doing well, certainly many Scandinavian countries are doing well. Countries that are in the throes of conflict and insecurity, Afghanistan, Yemen, are not doing well. The U.S. is not doing as well as we would expect. There are still rampant inequalities. We have a lot of work to do globally, and certainly in the U.S. We are not immune to any of those things.
Yeah, Lina, you mentioned Afghanistan. Obviously, that is an extreme situation there with the Taliban taking over in August, and women's rights certainly there are a huge concern. What are your biggest fears for the women and the young girls of Afghanistan, and what can we be doing as a country to help?
My biggest fears are the young girls, actually, because there's a generation of girls who've grown up with an understanding that they have some rights, relative freedom, access to education, mobility. This is predominantly in the urban areas, granted, but still, they have grown up with a different understanding of what they can and can't do. And they don't remember life under the Taliban. And Afghanistan has a very young population, actually. So what is going to happen is this young generation is going to fight. So I think that's very encouraging. But at the same time, the odds are really tough. So what we can do is listen to what Afghan women are saying. There are Afghan women leaders who have been out there doing the work long before we got there, who will do that work long after we are all gone. We need to pay attention to what they're saying, what they need, what kind of support and resources they're asking for, and we should finally deliver on those things, because they have a very long, hard road ahead, driving schools underground so they can educate their girls, rebuilding systems of support and safety nets, So we need to provide our own support to them outside of the country as much as we possibly can. And that starts with listening to them.
Well, Lina Abirafeh, we've been listening to you here, and we absolutely appreciate your time here with us, but also your efforts that you put in every day. And I think that's a great way to put it. Every single day should be International Day of the Girl. So, Executive Director of the Arab Institute for Women at Lebanese American University, thank you so much for spending some time with us, okay?
Thank you. My pleasure.
Well, hey there, GMA fans. Robin Roberts here. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Lots of great stuff here. So go on, click the subscribe button right over here to get more of awesome videos and content from GMA every day, anytime. We thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the morning on GMA.